I'd like to share a few thoughts with you about what might happen in your therapeutic relationship. And so, if you're looking for a therapist, just an idea of what could happen, and also um, the big takeaway message is how important it is to find a therapist that you're going to be really comfortable with. So, I think I'm going to start broad and then use a really narrow example, really specific example. Um, so, maybe to start with, broadly speaking, we are social creatures. We're mammals that depend upon the group for survival, and we're hardwired for that. Um, Connection is important, relationship is important. Um, Newborn babies are remarkably defenseless, kind of like these useless creatures, right? So, we need our caregivers to take care of us in order to survive. And we're also really, really, really quick learners. We pick up really quickly on which of our behaviors or what we do that elicits care, nurturance, connection that we need. And we also really quickly pick up on what are the things we do that our caregivers move away from, or which ones result in disconnection. We learn which part of ourselves um, are going to keep us safer and which aspects of ourselves put us more in danger, more disconnection. Alice Miller talks about the false self that develops as a result. Um, the false self, this is the me that is most acceptable. Um, this is the me that if I'm this me, I don't elicit any anxiety in my caregivers. They don't feel threatened. They don't feel overwhelmed by me, and so I get my needs met. And all the rest of me, you know, the icky stuff like rage, fear, neediness, sensitivity, all of that stuff that my caregivers didn't react well to, I push away. I push it down, away, somewhere so secret that I forget it's there. I forget it ever belonged to me. So we go through our lives mostly being this false self, and people like us, hey? Like, we make friends, we get jobs, maybe we get married or whatever. Um, Great. But maybe over time, um, maybe we have a subtle sense that there's something missing. Maybe we lose a sense of our own vitality or lose a sense of connection with our body. Maybe we wake up with dread or anxiety. I don't know, or maybe there's this feeling of lethargy. Whatever it is, something is calling to us, calling for attention, for care. Um, okay, we start looking for a therapist. And we show up in therapy and we're our very likable selves. I hope my therapist likes me. What do I do to make sure that I'm her favorite? Okay, mm, maybe I can tell that she really needs to feel useful or smart. Whatever it is, whatever I perceive that he or she needs, I'm really, really good at showing up that way. And that's totally okay. This is how it can start, but this is not where it ends. And so, to continue that story, maybe I'll use a really specific example, and I'll use an example of neediness, and maybe that's a part of ourselves that wasn't welcome, in the beginning part that I described. So, I'm in therapy for maybe the better part of a year, and my therapist lets me know with ample warning that she's going to take 2 weeks off at Christmas over the holidays. And my initial reaction is, oh, great, lovely, have a good time. Oh, but there's this physiological reaction to it that's hard to put my finger on. I feel maybe a burning or maybe this gut punch. And then I feel so embarrassed, so maybe pathetic that I could need her that much. Of course, she doesn't want to be with me over the holidays. She wants to be with her perfect, functional, healthy family. Ugh. Okay, and this is the first really important part, is there's enough trust built between us that I decide to take a big risk. And I share some of my experience with her. And really importantly, she responds with something like this. We're social creatures. We need connection. We need relationship. And the relationship that you and I have built is important to both of us. So taking a break in our work together is hard. It makes sense that you feel this way. What do we need to do to respond to it? What does it need from us? And so something really different has happened here. She has modeled making space for my neediness in our relationship. And then, maybe outside the room, in other relationships, maybe I start to make space for this neediness when it comes up. When I feel that physiological, whatever it is, kind of come up, I can start to respond with, oh, ouch, oh, this makes sense. What do I need to do to take care of it? I don't know, maybe a cup of tea would be really nice right now, whatever. I like noodle soup. And the ripple effects keep going. The other important part of this is I use this as a model, but it doesn't end there. All of the other aspects of myself that were less welcome or that elicited anxiety in my caregivers, I start to recognize when they bubble up in other relationships or in other domains of my life. And I can make space for them. I can respond with something like, oh, this makes sense. A cup of tea would be nice. Okay. So you can start to see how in our relationship with our therapist, we might start by showing up as the false self that is most welcome in other parts of our life. And we can talk about what's happening there and out there in the world, or then what happened to us back then. But as our beloved Irvin Yalom talks about, we can start to talk about what's happening here and now in our relationship, in this room right now. And my therapist might model for me how I can respond to myself differently. Instead of calling myself pathetic or feeling shame, I might, cup of tea, as I keep using that as an example. This is what can start happening in our relationship with our therapist. So as I said in the beginning, this is how important it is to find someone that you're going to be comfortable with. And maybe we don't know in the first session whether or not we can imagine ourselves having a temper tantrum in session a year down the line or 2 months down the line. But if you find someone that you feel really comfortable with, there's going to be more of a chance that as trust grows here, more parts of myself that weren't allowed then might be allowed now and welcomed into the room.